Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone, episode number 182 for the 14th of April 2012. Richard Saunders with you once again. On this week's show, our reporter Eran Segev travelled down to Adelaide, where he met up with a good friend of the Skeptic Zone, Dr Paul Willis, who is now the director of the Royal Institution of Australia, known as RiAus. Paul takes Eran on a tour of the institution. Historical, science, artworks, what more could you want? Join Paul and Eran for the tour at the top of the show. After that, we have a brief message from Dr Richard Wiseman about a new app he's helped develop called Dream On. Yeah, hopefully you can sort of influence your dreams. Sounds very interesting. Join the worldwide experiment, details coming up. And following that, it's a fun little interlude. We have a new song by Eddie Scott, known as the Skeptic in the Room. He's written a song all about power bands. Mighty Mystic Power Bracelets, it's called. A fun song coming up in the middle of the show. Then to wrap up the show, it's the return of the Think Tank. Join Dr Rachael, Maynard, Bastard Sheep and myself for a couple of drinks as we chat about issues of the day, including Skeptic Camp in Sydney and World Homeopathy Awareness Week. Yes, folks, it's up to all of us to make the world aware of exactly what homeopathy is. You know, I was thinking, is there such a thing as homeopathy? Does it actually exist? Or is it just a process? And at the end there is no discernible product. That's interesting. You might think of that. I'll think of that. I'll have a big think about that. I tell you, I'll run downstairs. I'll have a big glass of homeopathic water. Got to figure out how to make homeopathic water. While I'm doing that, you can enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
Grain of salt, grain of salt, grain of salt.
Let's all take this with a grain of salt. Here's Eran Segev.
Grain of salt now, grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
So, I'm here at the Royal Institution of Australia in Adelaide with its director, very good friend of the Skeptics, MC of TAM Australia in 2010, Dr Paul Willis. Hi, Paul.
How are you doing? It's good to see you. Welcome to Adelaide.
Okay, so I believe we're going to have a bit of a tour of the Royal Institute of Australia. But
my pleasure. And look, this is the great place to start. I call this the throbbing heart of the RiAus. What this is a 180-seat auditorium. It has a bar, which is very important, although one day it's probably going to be my undoing. And we have a stage. What's most important about this auditorium is we've also got about $3 million worth of audio-visual gear in here. So we can actually record and broadcast live to the internet anything that goes on here. And that's really at the heart of what we're looking to do. RiAus is about engaging Australians with science. How do we not just tell them about science, but get them thinking about science, get them acting in scientific ways, understanding the science behind the everyday.
the slogan, I believe, is...
bringing people to science and science to the people. And the way that we can do that effectively as a national organisation with international outreach is part of it is we can put on live events here. Last night we had sex here. We had an event that followed on from an episode of Catalyst. Get that smirk off your face, Eran.
I was actually going to ask, who's we?
Well, it was me and Mary Ann DeMacy, actually, which was quite delightful. But it was a panel discussion here that arose out of the Catalyst special on some sex problems. It was streamed live, and it was a terrific discussion. But people were able to follow it on their iPhone anywhere in Australia, or your iPad, or your Android, or your tablet, whatever. And that, to me, is the way that we're going to leverage across the country events so that we can reach anywhere in the country. All people have got to have is a telephone, and they can not just follow the conversation, they can join in. They can send their questions in via Twitter, and it all happens in real time. So this is the future.
Okay, so shall we go for a bit of a walkabout?
I'll just start out with a brief that the building that we're in here is the old stock exchange building. It was built in 1901. And
specifically for science?
No. Yeah, they didn't realise it at the time. It became vacant in 1991 when the stock exchanges went digital and all moved to the East Coast. And we inherited it in the mid-2000s when it was decided that the Royal Institution of Australia needed a home and this would be a good place. And it was completely redeveloped in our own image. But part of the history of that is you'll notice as we go through it's kind of schizophrenic. This half of the building is all new and modern and has all the technology in it. The other half of the building is all heritage. It's as it was in 1901. And the reason for that is this half of the building burnt out twice, once in the 1930s and once in the 1980s. And so when it came time to redevelop, the other half of the building had a load of heritage labels over it as to what we could and couldn't do. Here we had free rein. So we've got the best of both worlds. We've got some fantastic spaces, and I'm looking forward to showing you some of them.
Let's go.
Let's start at the top, and that way we can use gravity to get to the bottom.
And this is the trading floor over here.
This was the trading floor.
Well, the reason I mentioned trading floor is because it says trading floor.
Well,
there's a sign. I wasn't guessing. Yeah.
Bit of a giveaway. It was the trading floor, and this is now the office space for RiAus. You can see that we did retain two of the original chalkboards from the last day of trading, and if you can find BHP at $10.70 a share, I recommend you get it. There's a lot of history associated with this room, including the fact that all of the shares and trading for the Poseidon adventure occurred in this very room. So it's a dubious pleasure to be sitting working at my desk with that kind of heritage hanging around my neck. But as you can see now, it's an open plan, bright and quite an airy space.
So this is the office space here.
This is the office space for RiAus, and upstairs there's another office space.
There's a mezzanine level.
A mezzanine level. That was originally the viewing floor for the public of the trading floor. And now it's the offices of the AusSMC, the Science Media Centre, and they specialise in taking scientists to the media and bringing the media directly in contact with scientists, so that not only are they going to get their facts right, or have a better chance of getting their facts right, but also they will be exposed to more science content. And they're having great success at placing science media stories across the country, and indeed around the world. You know, a lot of people are tuning in from all over the world into the AusSMC to get factual content.
Very good. So there's a video running here. This is some kind of protein, isn't it?
Yeah, this is actually our little museum room, and currently we have an exhibition here on the Braggs. Lawrence and Henry Bragg were the only father and son combination to win a Nobel Prize. Lawrence Bragg is still the youngest person to ever win a Nobel Prize. They won that back in 1905 for their work on X-ray crystallography. 1915 for their work on X-ray crystallography. It was a science that they invented. And they did all of their seminal work here in Adelaide. Henry Bragg was originally from Scotland, I believe. Lawrence was born here in Adelaide. Amongst the various bits of equipment that we've got on display, this vacuum tube here is the first X-ray tube to be made in the Southern Hemisphere. It was hand-blown by Henry Bragg, and it was made less than a year after Röntgen discovered X-rays in Europe.
Amazing.
So these guys were, for the early part of the 1900s, these guys were really right up there with,
cutting edge
with the science. Yeah.
Did they get the information by email?
Probably all came in Morse code.
Well, obviously, I was joking about that, but it actually makes the fact that it was so soon after the discovery of X-rays makes it even more remarkable, considering the fact that it probably took months for the information to arrive here in Australia.
It's really makes you think, on reflection, about the whole process of peer review, because the way that Bragg would have found out about this would have been when the journal turned up on his desk that would have been published in Europe. I don't know actually where the seminal papers of Röntgen were published, but they would have been published in Europe at a guess. So Röntgen had to do all of his work and publish it, and the journals had to go through the full review process, and then Bragg's copy had to make all of its way across the planet by steamship. So it would have taken at least a month to get here. And yet, within a year of the discovery of X-rays, here he was on the other side of the planet making X-ray tubes.
Quite astonishing.
There's a couple of these boxes on the wall in the building, and technically what they were installed for and what their official use was were ashtrays that you could put your cigarettes in the top, and you'd turn this little handle, and that would flick the cigarette butt out into the street so that it didn't cloud up the inside of the building. The most use that these guys got was that there was so much illegal gambling going on in this building that if you saw the cops coming, and as you can see just looking out the window, you've got quite a good view of any incoming policeman, you could put your betting slips in there, give it a flick, and there's no way they could say you were gambling because your betting slips out on the footpath. And then down into the dungeons.
Oh, you have a dungeon as well?
We have all types now.
Yeah, well, scientists should always have a dungeon, right?
Well, these were actually the club rooms of the original stock exchange, and we've broken them up into two areas now. This is our science art gallery. Now, so far as we know, it's the only dedicated art science gallery in the country, and we have 4 or 5 exhibitions through here a year. All sorts of different science themes are covered. Where we're standing at the moment is an installation that just won an award in the Adelaide Fringe for the best art installation.
May I point out that we both look a bit weird at the moment?
I feel like I'm being autoclaved. It's essentially a tunnel with white and silver walls that's completely illuminated by UV light. And we both look a bit weird. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here, yeah.
Before I get sterilised or something. So here is the gallery proper. And we found that you can get a lot of science across if you don't tell people it's science. Part of our mission is to engage the disengaged. In an art space like this, we get a lot of people coming in for the art, and they go away with some understanding of the maths and science behind the exhibition. So, being able to engage people by using unusual, unorthodox techniques, that's where our future lies. That's the sort of thing that we're getting up to here. This was the main club room. Apparently they had 3 billiard tables in here when the stock exchange was up and running. We use it, again, for all sorts of purposes, but principally we put on theatres here. We put on plays. In the Adelaide Fringe recently we had a play called Sepia. Now, Sepia was about a family growing up in Whyalla in regional South Australia. And through their story, we were able to explore the science themes behind what's happening with the cuttlefish at Whyalla, what's happening with the steel industry there, why is it shutting down, what's happening with the desal plant that's proposed for there. A lot of interesting, in many ways, confrontational scientific issues were able to be presented in a way that took the confrontation out of it, and you were able to just explain the science. And again, people came for the play. They wanted to see people performing, and they managed to take on board a lot of science without actually having to work at it. Again, it's engaging the disengaged. It's getting an in for people who normally would not want to think about science. But one of the stories I like about this room from the stock exchange days is I met up with a stockbroker who spent his whole working life in this building, and he told me the story that there was one stock broker who made a fantastic living out of here, so much so he barely left the building, and he bought himself one of the rooms in a hotel across Grenfell Street, which is 30 or 40 metres away, so that it was easy for him to get to work and back. When he retired, he didn't know anything other than this building, and so he would come into this room every day and drink a bottle of scotch. And one evening he got to the front door and realised that he was too pissed to walk the 30 metres home. So he phoned up St John's Ambulance and said, "If I buy you an ambulance, will you take me home for the rest of my life and put me to bed?" And apparently they said, "How old are you and how far do we have to drive you?" And they struck a bargain. And for the next 5 or 10 years, every night at 11 o'clock, an ambulance would turn up at the front door to pile him in, drive him across the road, put him to bed, and do it all again the next day. And that essentially is it. That is
That's very good.
Our glorious building. If anyone is visiting Adelaide and you want to have a look, we are open to the public 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock Monday to Friday. And if you log on to our website, RiAus.org.au, and you can keep tabs on our program. So if you are in Adelaide, there may well be something on here at night, and come in, join in the fun, join us in the auditorium, have a glass of wine, and experience our wonderful building.
And beyond the building, I should probably also point out that you have activities that are around the country as well, like free-range science, for example, is
indeed
an activity
we
I'm aware
have
of.
free-range science across Victoria, in regional Victoria. Last year we followed, or actually we went ahead of the Solar Challenge from Darwin to Adelaide, explaining to the public what these weird cars were and how they worked and why the challenge was going on. So we have plans to go into New South Wales with live events. Essentially, we are looking at how we can get out there and work with other groups that are already doing science communication at one level or another, and work out how we can value add to that and take it to the next level.
Very good. Thank you very much, Paul.
My pleasure.
Grain of salt now. Grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
The Mystery Investigators show for high schools, using science to investigate the strange and mysterious. Spoon bending, fire walking, a bed of nails, water divining, astrology, false memories. How do you use the scientific method to investigate and explain these strange and amazing claims? The Mystery Investigators show is a fun, interactive hour of science and magic. If you're in the Sydney area, visit www.mysteryinvestigators.com to find out more and for bookings. The Mystery Investigators, using science to investigate the strange and mysterious.
Hi, I'm Richard Wiseman. I'm the psychologist behind Dream On, the new mass participation experiment that aims to give you the perfect dream. All you need to do is download the Dream On iPhone app. Before you go to bed, press the Start Dreaming button. Next, decide what time you want to wake up. Select an alarm tone, and then choose one of the soundscapes. Now, plug in your iPhone, Press Start and place it face down on the bed next to you. Throughout the night, the app will monitor and log your movements. And then, about 20 minutes before you want to wake up, it will go into dream mode. It will wait until you're especially still, which is an indication that you're dreaming, and then gently play in your chosen soundscape. Now, the theory is that sound will influence your subconscious and you'll incorporate it into your dream. When you start to move around again, the app will sound the alarm, gently wake you up, and prompt you to send in a brief report of your dream. You can also post it on Twitter, you can tag your friends if they appeared in your dream, and send it onto Facebook. In a few months' time, we'll examine the data and see if it really is possible to create the perfect dream. Thanks for taking part, and sweet dreams.
People everywhere since the very dawn of time have tried to find the secret of success. Who'd have thought the answer was so simple and sublime, and best of all, so easy to possess? The Chinese, they have secrets that we'll never understand, with centuries of knowledge on display. But now we get to use the ancient wisdom of that land in a TV infomercial kind of way. So just put on your mighty mystic power bracelets, your balance and athletic skills increased, because this tiny molded bit of plastic is imbued with all the magic of the East. This magic band may cost you lots of money, so show your credit card where all can see. Yes, buy a mighty mystic power bracelet, 'cause no one said placebos should be free. Now there are those who wonder if this magic really works. Richard Saunders likes to say it's all a sham, but they are just close-minded, all those condescending jerks who could argue with a tiny hologram. Some studies have been done to find out if these fans impressed, but clearly there is still more work to do. And who will believe a scientist who's only done some tests when a shortstop or a golfer says it's true? So just put on your mighty mystic power bracelet, see your balance and athletic skills increase, because this tiny molded bit of plastic is imbued with all the magic of the East. This magic band may cost you lots of money, so show your credit card where all can see. Just buy a mighty mystic power bracelet, 'cause no one said placebos should be free. So just put on your magic mystic power bracelet, see your balance and athletic skills increase, because this tiny molded bit of plastic is imbued with all the magic of the East. This magic band may cost you lots of money, so show your credit card where all can see. Just buy a mighty mystic power bracelet, because no one said placebos. Did I just say placebos? What I meant was overpriced bits of plastic manufactured in Chinese factories for pennies and sold at ridiculous prices to gullible people in the West who think their strength, balance, flexibility, and overall well-being will be improved, but who ought to know better. Should be free.
This is Desiree, host of Canadian radio show Skeptically Speaking. For those of you that don't know, Canada's quite similar to Australia. People know us primarily for our weather and our beer, and we have a queen, just like you do. Same one as you do, actually. We also have mythical monsters, and people who think they have psychic abilities, and people who think that vaccinations are bad for you. So keep listening to the Skeptic Zone. and know that we're all in this together.
Join us now for Drinking Skeptically in the Think Tank.
Don't they have lovely music here at the moment?
It is quite nice today. It is very nice.
Very mellow background music. Maynard.
Yeah, I was enjoying Right Said Fred earlier too. I thought it was great. What a day for a daydream. I think that should be played as the national anthem.
I think you're right. And it's good to see you here in the Think Tank and Bastard Sheep. Hi, Sheepy.
G'day, everybody.
Wow, it's been a long time since you've joined us. Good to see you along. And studying her notes on her iPad and with a nice glass of wine in front of her, it's Dr. Rachael. Hello, Dr. Rachael.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm particularly happy tonight because we're back in the Think Tank, but we must, right at the top of the show, a big thank you and a big shout out, because when I was in Manchester for QED convention, which was a fabulous time, somebody rushed up to me, shoved an envelope in my hand and rushed away. Well, not quite. The envelope says on it, "A round of drinks for the next Think Tank. Thanks for the show. Best wishes, Andy Beale, Nottingham Skeptics in the Pub." And thank you, Andy. He gave us enough money and in front of us all a drink. So, Andy and Nottingham Skeptics, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, Andy. I'll be getting lucky tonight because of you, Andy. Thank you.
And it's Friday the 13th, Maynard, so maybe you'll be getting lucky with a vampire or...
I would hope so, too. I mean, I was born on the 13th, so I'm not very scared of 13th.
Now, folks, just before we get into the Think Tank, of course, right at this moment, and for the next few days at least, we've got Maynard paraphernalia, Maynard's package, as I've called it. It's up for bid.
Why did you call it that?
Because it's Maynard, you know.
Look, and thank everyone that's made a bid on it, and thank you everyone that's contributed to TAM. I will be there, and no one's taken me up. If you've got any questions you'd like me to ask anyone specifically, drop me a line through my email at my website or through the Skeptic Zone, and I'll try and ask that question for you to the appropriate person. I mean, that's the least I can do.
But in front of me now are a couple of the items that are up for bid at the moment. We've got Maynard's Classics, 95 to 2000, signed by your good self.
Including such standout hits from such long-lasting groups as Louis Bega, who can forget Mambo No. 5, and T-shirt with their cover of the Hot Chocolate song You Sexy Thing.
But those memories can be yours, folks, on that double CD set. And also, in that collection, we have Maynard's Dag Quiz book.
And here's an example of one of the questions you can challenge people. In fact, are you ready for a challenge, Sheepy?
See what I can do.
Okay. There we go. In Get Smart, where would you normally find Agent 13?
Agent 13 hiding inside the most inconspicuous of objects, whether it's a tree, a postbox, behind a wall, a mirror.
Great show.
But great, just an all-time classic, of course. Now, a couple of interesting items floating around the old internets, the old world of skepticism. The internets. Let me quickly cover what was making news in the sort of the skeptical, free thinkers, critical thinking, atheist sort of community. At the moment in Melbourne, and we can't make it there, is the big atheist convention, so I hope everybody's having a good time. Anyway, Richard Dawkins was on a very popular show here in Australia called Q&A. And it was just him. It's usually lots of politicians and commentators all having a chat and answering questions, but it was just him, Richard Dawkins, the moderator, and Cardinal George Pell, the Catholic cardinal here. I think he's the highest...
The Archbishop in Australia.
Yeah, he's the highest ranking Catholic in Australia. And, of course, it was basically, is there a God or isn't there a God, and what good is religion, yada, yada, yada. The whole thing went for an hour. It's on YouTube. Just Google or just go to YouTube and look for George Pell Q&A Richard Dawkins. You'll find it. It's all there. But it was notable for a couple of reasons. One, George Pell increasingly stopped making sense throughout the whole show. It was getting just strange what he was saying. And also, I don't think Richard Dawkins was firing on all cylinders.
Look, to me, I only saw the second half of it because I really don't like the show because I can't stand all those stupid tweets that turn up down the bottom. I'm going to actually get a patented Maynard bit of cardboard you can put over the bottom third because they just seem to put the smarty bum tweets on there. They don't seem to put stuff that's like any that advances it anyway. But Mr. Dawkins, he looked like he was over it. He just looked like he was really over it.
He was jet lagged.
Jet-lagged.
He was jet lagged.
And now... You might say, it's just a cop-out by Dawkins saying he's jet-lagged. Folks, jet lag really screws with your brain. You can be out to lunch. You can do things and not realise it. You can't think of people's names. Be that as it may, I'll just play a little clip now off the show.
Do you believe that homosexuality, since it's not a question of choice, is part of God's natural order?
Creation's messy. I think it's the Oriental carpet makers always leave a little flaw in their carpet because only God's perfect.
But you're suggesting that homosexuals are flawed human beings?
Not necessarily. But what I am saying is I don't think homosexual activity is simply the result of genetic makeup because we are free. We can control our instincts. And like heredity and environment, a lot of this practice is learned.
Now, there you go. Now, that's a pretty unusual thing, or is it, from a Catholic archbishop to say about gay people?
Look, I thought, Sheepy, you had some comments to say on that earlier that I think were very pertinent to that situation.
Yeah, you can... If you make any comment at all about other religious groups, everybody jumps on it. All of a sudden, you're extremely offensive, stuff like that. You say anything bad about gays or atheists, and it's fine, it's perfectly happy. Everybody lets you get away with it.
Or it's not the same level of indignation, one might say.
Yeah, people like George Pell can be absolutely blatantly insulting, cutting people down like no tomorrow. But if he's talking about gays or atheists when he's doing it, everybody turns a blind eye. Nobody seems to care. And that's extremely offensive.
It is strange, but again, if listeners are interested, it's all on YouTube. It wasn't the finest outing, if we may use that term, by both these men. I mean, obviously not. Although, again, it's another interesting thing that George Pell was saying, that he says, of course atheists go to heaven.
Yeah, but homosexuals are part of carpet? I mean...
Exactly, yeah. It was confused messages. One might say, confused messages. And speaking of confused messages, if this is a segue, it's World Homeopathy Awareness Week.
Woohoo.
And yesterday was grilled cheese sandwich day as well.
International grilled cheese sandwich.
I know that because Pee Wee Herman tweeted that, so it has to be true.
I didn't even get a grilled cheese sandwich. I'm going to have to make up for it later, I think.
Oh, yeah, look, I think there should be grilled cheese sandwich month. So, so every day has a day, and I think there's a website where you go, what's the day about, or something like that. Have a look
But
there.
back onto the topic of grilled cheese sandwiches. This week happens every year at about mid-April, and I think it is a fantastic initiative. I think all skeptics should take it up and try to help out the homeopaths with it, and try to spread the word about what homeopathy actually is. That's the most damaging thing we can do to homeopaths. Tell people what it actually is.
Well, it's not a grilled cheese sandwich, that's for sure.
Well, in fact, what initiatives do they do? Do they go on the media and talk about it? Do they pitch a big tent somewhere and have a chat? What do they normally do?
Strange you should say that, because a number of years ago they did actually pitch some tents down in Circular Quay in the little park there here in Sydney, and were promoting World Homeopathic Awareness Week. And that's where I first tumbled them, when they were giving out leaflets saying we're going to be appearing at the babies, Mothers and Babies Fair. And I went to the Mothers and Babies Fair, and they told me to my face that they would not recommend vaccinations and you shouldn't use homeopathy. So, yeah.
And did you start an argument with them straight away?
No. I just said, that's very interesting. Then we reported it in the Skeptic on the webpage and everything. I think we even had a press release. This is going back a number of years ago now.
It was a while ago. Well, I don't know what they do internationally, apart from they try to throttle Twitter with the hashtag WHAW for World Homeopathy Awareness Week. But of course, a hashtag is not reserved just for proponents of homeopathy. As Sheepy says, it can also be used by opponents. So we tend to use that this week to tweet information that, as Sheepy says, will enlighten people as to actually what homeopathy is, and hashtag it with WHAW and 1023.
1023, yeah.
Now, most people are aware of what the 1023 campaign is about, but if you don't know, it was set up by the Merseyside Skeptics a couple of years ago, and the relevance of 1023 is that that's Avogadro's constant, which is the number beyond which, if you dilute something, there's a very small likelihood you'll have one original molecule remaining. And of course, most homeopathic therapies or remedies have about 10 to the 30 dilution. That's the common...
And on and on and on, yes.
Well, on and on, but the common one that you'll buy in the chemist shop is about 10 to the power of 30. So you're diluting it deleting it. You're diluting it.
It should be deleted.
Yeah, you're diluting it to such a degree that there's nothing left in it. So I've already had a few arguments this week with a few homeopaths on Twitter because they've picked me up through the WHAW hashtag. So people tend to write blogs this week who are skeptics. They tend to use that hashtag and just get the information out that homeopathy, there's nothing in it, which is the catchphrase of 1023. Thank you.
And they've certainly picked quite a week to do this too, because yesterday, as we said, was International Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day. Today is National Peach Cobbler Day. And, of course, next week, International Moment of Laughter Day is celebrated on the 14th. On the 15th, there's National Glazed Ham Day. On the 16th, on the 16th, there's National Eggs Benedict Day. And I've got to say, who doesn't enjoy that? April 17th is Tax Day, and of course this will fit in well with what they're doing. On the 18th of April, it's National Wear Your Pyjamas to Work Day.
But just getting back to the homeopathy thing, it's interesting what you say, Rachel. Beyond the limit, there's no molecule, etc., etc. But I have the opinion that certainly the vast majority of stuff you'd buy in Boots in the UK or the pharmacies here, the little pills, have never been within shouting distance of any of the ingredients. They're just churned out sugar pills. There's no process. They just churn them out and sell them.
Yeah, well, nobody knows that, do they? I mean, we don't know that for sure, but I suspect you're right. But our favourite homeopath in Australia, Fran Sheffield, who runs Homeopathy Plus, just recently a Facebook page has been set up called Stop Homeopathy Plus, and a Twitter account started up a couple of days ago.
Which is Stop Homeopathy P, I think that Twitter account is.
Yes, and on Facebook just search for Stop Homeopathy Plus.
Yeah. Have a look.
Now, somebody referred to this the other day because I retweeted something that I follow Homeopathy Plus on Twitter, and I also subscribe to their newsletter.
Me too.
And somebody tweeted at me the other day, why are you trolling yourself? Like, why do you subscribe to this stuff? Are you trying to troll yourself? Because you get the newsletter as well.
Yes, I sure do.
And the every single one that comes seems to be crazier than the one before. It's just mental, isn't it?
It's worth getting, though.
It is worth getting just to see how mental it is, because you mentioned that you don't think the pills have ever been in contact with any of the actual ingredients.
I doubt it. Not the industrial ones.
I think it was the last newsletter that it was described how if you buy homeopathy as a pill and you want to make it into a liquid, there were instructions as to how to do that. So you dissolve the pill into a certain amount of liquid, but you had to succuss it in between dilutions, and then you could make it into a liquid homeopathy remedy instead of a pill homeopathy remedy. And there was... Do you remember the previous newsletter?
Well, they come out about once a week, don't they?
They come out all the time, and they actually repeat themselves a lot too.
They
like there
do.
was a link today that I noticed came from 2011, but there was one recently that showed a succussion machine, and it had a drawing, and it looked like a lithograph or an etching. It was this really old-fashioned drawing, and it looked like some kind of either chastity device or a suppository device. It was really weird.
Maynard's nodding in agreement here.
I'm here going, well, now I do know people that claim that the rescue remedy, now is that a homeopathic remedy? I know people who claim that rescue remedy works for them when they're in a time of stress. Has there been any experiment on this either way, or is it just the alcohol
as far
it's
as I
mixed
know,
with that makes them...
it's a placebo.
It's a placebo, yeah.
Okay, I was just asking, that's all.
Placebos work when you're under stress. They can, definitely.
Okay, so I thought placebos were mainly only useful for pain.
Anything.
All sorts of things.
Okay. Especially pain, but I think anything. If you're feeling stressed, take this, you'll feel better, etc., etc.
If you're feeling car sick, take this, you'll feel better.
If you can't sleep, take this.
If you're feeling car sick, drag a bit of rubber behind the car.
I remember that. Because I used to get car sick when I was quite a small boy, and that was one of the things my dad tried.
Yeah, a lot of people still do that, don't they?
I thought it was just static electricity, so you don't get a zap from the car. It grounds the car. I thought it was
a myth. It's a myth. It doesn't do anything.
I didn't stop getting car sick until I was in my teens. I just had to grow out of it.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, as humorous as it is, and can be, all this silliness about homeopathy, there is a bad side to it, of course, a very dark and bad side. As I said a few weeks back when I was a special guest on the SGU, Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, I said what we should do is be promoting homeopathy's dirty little secret, which is there's nothing in it, right? I was just about to say, one of the dark sides of homeopathy has come to light just recently here in Australia, Dr. Rachael.
Well, this is a continuing story about Penelope Dingle, which has been covered for a number of years now. I think she died in 2005, is that right?
2005, yeah.
I think so.
From colon cancer, or complications from colon cancer.
And a particularly nasty death.
It's just that it wasn't treated for about 2 years because she was encouraged by a homeopath by the name of Francine Scrayan to just get homeopathic remedies, to avoid any other conventional medicine and to not take conventional painkillers, etc. Now, this has been covered on extensively by an ABC documentary called Australian Story, which you can still find online, and I'm pretty sure it's not geo-blocked. And in any case, there's a transcript online. And one of the most distressing things about that, and we've discussed this on The Zone before, was there was a coroner's investigation because the family of Penelope Dingle wanted to find out what the role of the homeopath was in the death of their sister, or their, relative. Yeah. In addition to her husband, Peter Dingle, who used to be a lecturer in environmental toxicology at the university in WA.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember exactly whether it was Curtin or... Anyway, I don't want to say in case I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, he subsequently stepped down from the university, or retired, in inverted commas. Allegedly, he may have been asked to leave, but I don't know that for sure. The reason I'm saying allegedly and I don't know for sure is because recently the sister of Penelope Dingle has now taken it to court to sue Francine Scrayan directly for her involvement in her sister's death. Now, as a result of that, Francine Scrayan has placed a slap on a sceptical blogger who was following this story. Now, since it's World Homeopathy Awareness Week, Dan Buzzard is his name on Twitter. He dug out the letters that Penelope Dingle wrote to Francine Scrayan when she was very ill, really just before she passed away, where she explains very clearly that she was misled by Francine, that she was led to believe that homeopathy would cure her cancer, and that she trusted the homeopath implicitly, and she got to a point where... the upshot of this was that she ended up in hospital having emergency surgery for a blocked bowel, where if she hadn't had surgery immediately, she would have ended up vomiting faeces and dying an incredibly... we've discussed this before on the Zone. It's just so horrible.
That's what I was saying before. It was a horrible...
Yeah, in particular, colon cancer, if it's caught early, is very easily... It's curable to, about 90%. Yeah. Anyway, so Dan's been covering this, and because the sister's now suing Francine, it's back in the news, it's back in being topical. So Francine placed a slap on him. In fact, Friday was Good Friday.
The slap is a strategic lawsuit against public prosecution.
Thank you.
Which is basically means just to shut critics up so that people can't see
what... If you keep saying this, we're going to sue you,
Yeah, so it's basically to shut up. It's like it's legal chill, as Ben Goldacre calls it. So anyway, the issue with this was that Dan got notification of this on Thursday at 12 o'clock, and we had Easter, so we had 4 days, and he had until Tuesday at midday to respond to this. And in between that, there were 4 days of public holidays, so he couldn't have got legal advice. Now, I know that he did get some advice, but I'm not sure how he's proceeded with this. But one of the problems is that when you Google Francine Scrayan, he comes up as hit number 2 on Google in Australia, and Google number 1 is the Australian Story transcript, which neither of those, or in fact most of page 1 of Google, don't put her in very good light. Now, she doesn't have her own website. The only link where you'll find her directly is through natural therapy pages, so you can still find her. And in fact, I know a journalist who wrote about her about 12 months ago and found her through Google and called her up on the number on Google in the natural therapies pages, at which point she burst into tears and hung up the phone. And he said, but you're still on, you're listed under the natural therapy pages. But she doesn't have a website, so anything that people are going to say about her is going to come up in Google. And so it appears to me that she's trying to get rid of that stuff out of Google. But unfortunately for her, it's only going to get worse, because now that she's being sued by the sister of Penelope Dingle, it's going to be back in the news again. There's going to be more and more coverage, and it's just going to look bad for Francine Scrayan. So she can put slaps on whoever she likes, but once it gets back into the mainstream press, which inevitably it will, it's going to be page 10s of Googles before, there's nice stuff said about Francine's grain.
It's being someone who's been looking at this whole saga of homeopathy for many years now. It occurs to me year after year after year, it is getting harder and harder and harder for the homeopaths, which can only be a good thing. What I mean by that is year after year after year, there are more people willing to speak up, go to the media, blog, Twitter, criticise, and all power to it. I think that's the best thing that could happen, and remind people once again that homeopathy is a complete and utter farce and sham.
Well, we should also say that the NHMRC, which is our government, I guess they're the advisory board to sort of our medical policies in Australia, they have already written a draft statement saying that homeopathy is unethical and shouldn't be prescribed by doctors in Australia. I mean, they advise on all sorts of things like obesity or diabetes, or they say, if you're treating patients with cardiovascular disease, here are the drugs that we think are the best because we've looked at all the evidence, and based on what we've seen, this is what you should be doing. They've done the same thing with homeopathy, and based on the UK Science and Technology Committee report from 2010, they wrote a draft statement, which they released late last year, saying that that's probably what they're going to end up saying officially as a government body in this country, is homeopathy is bunk. Don't prescribe it, and it's unethical to prescribe it for reasons like that. I mean, we've talked about Gloria Sams before, the 9-month-old toddler who died of septicemia because of untreated eczema. I mean, these are isolated cases, and yes, people die from conventional medicine too, but
they're precisely the anecdotes that we need, because anecdotes tend to work on the general public.
But of course, the big thing is you don't die from homeopathy, you die because it doesn't do anything and you're not getting proper treatment.
But this is the thing, because this is the argument I had with someone. I think the handle is homeopathical. There's someone on Twitter.
Homeopathic Dana, was it?
No, it's some guy called Homeopathical, not Homeopathic Dana.
Oh, yes.
He or she picked me up through the WA hashtag the other day and said, yeah, but it wasn't homeopathy that killed that person, it was the homeopath. It's just an isolated instance of a bad homeopath. I said, no, it wasn't that so much. It was that they were not told that homeopathy doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I said, are you saying to me that there are homeopaths out there that will say to their clients, this is placebo and it doesn't work, but have it anyway, but make sure you get conventional therapy that works? If you can give me an example of that. I mean, surely they're in the minority.
That's actually one thing that surprises me the most about the Penelope Dingle case. When Penelope Dingle died, there was the coroner's inquest, and what happened to Francine, to Mrs. Graham?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
The homeopathic regulatory bodies, they did nothing about it. They didn't even speak out against her. So she's just basically gotten away with such bad treatment, scot-free.
Yeah. That's a really good point, because I think I've been noticing on Twitter lately, it must be Twitter, people saying, come on, are there any homeopaths out there who are willing to speak up against...
But they never do.
They never against do. Bad homeopaths or whatever.
No, they never do. Yeah. And this is the thing, in Australia, we're moving now towards registering and regulating Chinese medicine practitioners.
Yeah.
And there's this whole argument in this country now about the regulation of alt-med practitioners. And there's one side of the argument that's saying, oh, but if you regulate them and if you train them in universities, they'll be betterer.
Betterer.
Yeah. And to me, that's like, okay, if you teach someone that water has a memory in a private college somewhere or in a university, it's still gibberish. Yes. It doesn't matter where you teach it to them.
Yes.
What are you going to teach them at a university? That it's more expensive gibberish than it is in, I don't know, in a TAFE? It doesn't matter. It's nonsense wherever you teach it. So this whole idea that, people come out of universities better alternative medicine practitioners. Well, no, if what you're teaching them is rubbish, it's rubbish wherever you teach it to them.
Yeah, I always like to use the analogy when talking about these things of the flying carpet for some reason. I think it works well because people can visualise it. It's like saying if you learn how to make a flying carpet in your home, well, that's one thing, but if you learn how to make it in a university...
It's betterer. See, it's more betterer.
It's more betterer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Skeptic Camp Sydney is coming up on the 26th of May.
Woo-hoo.
It's just over a month away. So
you've got to go there. Because I went along there last year. I had a fantastic time. There was really good atmosphere, and that was just the drinks afterwards. Apparently there were some talks that were useful as well. And I'll be there covering the whole thing because it's great. Now, are you doing a talk?
Maybe. I haven't really put much thought into it yet.
You turn
the
up
whole idea
on the day
Skeptic Camp is it's not all these big names talking. It's not all these people who are really experienced. It's just general people like you and me.
And it really worked well.
So the audience, everybody who comes to watch, they can all get up and give a talk if they want to. It can be 5 minutes, can be 15 minutes.
And you don't camp.
Any topic you like.
You don't camp overnight, do you?
And one of the great talks was this girl got up from Canberra and talked about why there aren't more women involved in skepticism and what some of the reasons may be. And it was just like a nice open discussion, and that was really good. And that was just as useful. Like, you don't have talks in large groups like that.
I hope you can give a talk, Maynard.
Look, I won't be giving a talk because it'll be no use to anyone. What am I going to talk about, really?
We'll think of something.
I don't know. Look,
if you want Maynard to talk at Skeptic Camp Sydney,
give me a topic. Look, the only thing I'm probably qualified to talk about is Nazi UFOs, because I'm very excited about the opening of Iron Sky.
Oh, yes.
And
I've heard about this.
I think we might have to go along and do that, but I don't want to cut into a bit of Skeptic Camp time, so tell people what they need to do.
How can we book? I've booked already, but how can our listeners book who are in Sydney?
All the details should be at www.skepticcampaustralia.org, and if you go to Eventbrite, EVENTBRITE, and do a search for Skeptic Camp there, you should be able to find where you can book tickets. They are completely free.
Yep.
It's at Building 2 of UTS, right in the centre of Sydney.
Just near Central train station, really easy to get to.
Very easy to get to.
One of the ugliest buildings in Sydney ever to win an architectural prize, I'd like to point out.
Exactly, so you can't miss it. Goes from about 9 a.m. in the morning till 5, 6 p.m. at night, and then there's drinks afterwards.
And
can I just add
there was a
something?
cupcake competition last year.
Yes, there will be another cupcake competition this year.
I was vegan last year for that, remember?
So if you're a cupcake...
I had 2 days of being a vegan. Somebody paid me to go vegan for 2 days.
Right. So the other thing we should add is that the organisers are currently looking for sponsors for lunch and for drinks afterwards, and possibly some prizes for the best talks. So if anyone would like to get involved, you'll get your name up in lights, and you get to be a part of the greater good and stuff, and feel warm and fuzzy. And so you can get in touch with the organisers through the addresses that Sheepy's just given.
And you can find those links at www.skepticzone.tv in the show notes. Now, Sheepy, you've got some information that's sort of hot off the press.
Yeah, something has just come through to me about an hour ago. Our best friend in the entire world, Miss Meryl Dorey. Yay! She is doing a seminar up in Maroochydore in Queensland. It's on the 18th of April from about 6:30 p.m. It's $20 per person, unfortunately. So if there's any skeptics up there who would like to go along, see what kind of things she says, see if she's in any way violating any of the rules and orders against her by anybody, see if she's making any claim, trying to collect money for an organisation, etc. Please do so and report back to us.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Sheepy, because a friend of mine asked me to mention this, particularly because some people have written to the Maroochydore RSL, which is where this is going to take place, and the RSL have been involved in polio campaigns where they've raised money for polio, eradicating polio. So it seems a little bit irresponsible on the behalf of an RSL to have someone like Meryl in there who's against vaccination, including polio vaccination.
Yep.
And some people did write to the RSL and alert them to this and say, seems a little bit wrong for you to do this. And it seems that apparently the RSL has sent some of that correspondence to Meryl, and she's then published that saying that the RSL received abusive emails from skeptics. Now, as far as I'm aware, that's not the case. They did receive letters saying that they didn't think it was a very good decision by the RSL, but that's quite different to abuse.
Yeah.
So it seems that apparently the RSL is aware of what Meryl was going to talk about, but they're still supporting this, which seems a little bit...
pretty odd.
Particularly since there are RSLs that do raise money for vaccination programs. I'm not particularly well informed about what the Maroochydore RSL specifically does, but it just doesn't seem right to me.
Now, Rachie, something else. I just didn't bring back some money for drinks from QED, of course. I brought you a CD.
Can you hear this? It's a shiny, shiny CD.
Just.
You can't hear it. And I can't play it because I don't have a CD player with me, but...
We can look at it.
It's Ned Evett. The album is called Treehouse, and it was given to you by the lovely Medtech, at Medtech, who did come to TAM 2010 in Sydney, and she's lovely, and she gave it to you to bring all the way back from Manchester for me. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, Medtech. I'll be playing this tonight when I have a few drinks.
Excellent. Good stuff. Yes. I'm happy to be the international postage service. Now, speaking of international postage, Maynard.
Look, I tell you what, I've been stamped more than once, let me tell you, Richard. Now, there's a lot of fluff going on with the movie Iron Sky that's coming out, which is actually a Finnish-Australian-German co-production about the Nazis. They left at the end of the Second World War and they went to the dark side of the moon and they're back. And basically that's the whole thing. And we were talking about this in Dirty Disbelievers episode 5 in January with Tim Ferguson, who also had a great show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival and is touring. Keep an eye out for Tim.
Was this when our Nazi show went to air?
That's right. And I believe the episode was called Nazi UFOs So Hot Right Now.
Yes.
Was the name of the episode. Look, that's well worth that. So have a look. Look, they've got the first 4 minutes of the film up on YouTube, and in minute 2 there is a serious physics mistake which I can reveal to you now.
Oh.
Well, mind you, it's one that's also shared by Star Wars, so they haven't made the same mistake.
Noises in space?
Yep, the guy gets shot and you can hear the noise of the gun going off.
Ah, well.
Which, unless you're sharing the same spacesuit, I think that would be difficult for that. So that's a bit of a bummer. But still, apart from that, the film is 110% accurate.
I was just about to say, you're worried about a noise in space and there's supposed to be Nazis on the far side of the moon.
Look, you and I live in very different universes, Richard.
Hang on, Maynard, I believe you're going to see Titanic in 3D tomorrow, aren't you? Purely because you want to see the correct stars in the segment where the boat sinks.
Or throughout the movie.
Is it the whole movie?
Throughout the entire movie. Neil deGrasse Tyson forced them.
Neil deGrasse Tyson wrote to James Cameron and said, you messed up the way that the stars would have been in 1914 or whenever it was, 1930. 1912.
It's 100 years ago now.
Yeah, 1912. You messed it up. It's wrong. It was a great film except for that. And James Cameron is such a perfectionist. He went bugger it then and he reshot those scenes.
Wow.
So I know that's why you're going to see Titanic.
I'm just going to see Leo DiCaprio drown again.
In 3D.
In 3D.
In fact, I have never seen the movie, and it is too long for me. And I know the boat sinks. I'd rather just see a good documentary on it.
It sinks again. Come on!
They get it right this time.
Also, all Canberra listeners can keep their eye out for Star Wars Burlesque. If you want to see a bit of Wookiee action, I would check out that show. I've seen it, and it's pretty interesting. If you're a Star Wars fan, it's a lot of fun. And also, I want to mention Dr. Carl.
Yes,
now, Dr. Carl Kuznitsky. He has been answering a lot of questions on Twitter lately.
He's been twittering like mad.
So suddenly, he started answering. He's very busy. I'd say that's why he normally can't do it. But if you send a question to Dr. Carl, there's a good chance he might tweet you a very intelligent and succinct reply. That's just a few things I've got to mention. And go Dirty Disbelievers.
Maynard, what can I say? You're just full of it. Information, I mean.
Look, I'm full of information that will be useful. And as we have brought to you here on this show, not only is it Homeopathy Week, it is Grilled Cheese Month.
Folks, what can I say? This is why we're getting Maynard to come with us to the amazing meeting in Las Vegas. And if I look at Maynard's thermometer, we've got, let me see, $550 to go, and your whole airfare is completely covered. So, folks, get into eBay or go to the skepticzone.tv and look for the link and bid on Maynard's package.
And don't forget, if you've got a question you want me to ask of someone specifically at TAM, I'll give it a go. No promises, but get it in, and I'll the first best in, dressed, served, all sorts of things. First in, we'll have Caesar dressing poured on them. Something like that.
Yeah, that'll do me. And those people who are attending TAM, please come up and find us. We'll be buzzing around, probably around Brian Dunning. Come up and say hello to Dr Rachael, myself, Eran, Segev.
I'll be standing behind Brian Dunning at all times.
Joanne Benamou might be coming too. She's not here tonight.
Joanne Benamou.
Is she going to do her bum talk?
I don't think she's going to be talking.
I don't think so.
If you invite her to do it at Skeptics in the Tub, she might do it for you, Maynard.
Yeah, I've heard about this Skeptics thing in the tub that goes on. That's a bit frightening.
You just ask Brian. You'll like it. Just ask Brian Dunning.
Oh.
Well, that's all coming up in the future, but as I look at the recorder now, I think the battery level's on the last bar, Maynard, which means we should go to the bar and wrap up the think tank.
And I hope everyone at the Atheist Con over the weekend has a great time in Melbourne. Yeah. Have an ungodly time.
An ungodly time. They probably are. Well, thank you, Maynard, for making an appearance.
That's okay, and just drop us a line, maynard.com.au, anytime, people.
You've heard it from Maynard. Thank you.
For a random chat or...
That's right.
That's right.
Photos.
Thank you.
Whatever you like. Pants monster.
Thank you.
And that delightful giggle.
He said pants monster.
Is Dr. Rachael. Thank you, Dr. Rachael. We look forward to a Dr. Rachael report soon, I hope.
I'm sorry, I've been very busy at work.
You have, but the fans are clamouring for more Dr. Rachael
Well, it's been grilled cheese month after all. The woman can only do so much.
Exactly.
And with one more shout-out and thank you to Andy Beale and the Nottingham Skeptics, whose lovely drinks. Cheers from the think tank.
Top bloke.
This is Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com. Skeptoid is a short weekly podcast taking a critical look at the pseudosciences that infect popular culture. Whenever I'm not locked in the recording studio, I'm listening to The Skeptic Zone.
Thank you for listening to The Skeptic Zone. And again, thank you for all those people bidding and helping to get Maynard to TAM Las Vegas. So close we can almost taste it. And tasting it is exactly what we'll do when we're there. Oh, the restaurants. Oh, those crabby legs. Can't wait for TAM in Las Vegas. Coming up on next week's show, a very special show indeed, where Eran Segev interviews the founders of the new movement, Friends of Science in Medicine. That will be a bumper show. That's something to really look forward to. All the founders all together in the same room with Eran Segev. Friends of Science in Medicine coming up next week. A show not to be missed. But for me, for this week, I'm off to have some more homeopathic water. This is Richard Saunders, signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.